see the camera, so I can't. I like to wander. I'm going to tell you a little story as soon as we manage to get that off. Somebody helping me stuck. So someone told me they heard the recent ad that you've got to contribute money to pay for my $1 million salary. Who heard this ad? Have you ever heard anything so ludicrous in your life? I have less than half the pay today than I did as mayor of the city of Mississauga. And yes, our donations are paying for it until I have a seat. But with such a strong candidate as Galen, was no need to run here. Galen and Indira are going to deliver this for us. And I need to continue to be out on the road, meeting Liberals across this province. Now, they speak about a person I don't know in these ads. So I thought I would share with you a little bit about my personal upbringing and who I am as a person. As I think many of you know me, but some of you don't, because I'm a very Scottish-sounding Polish woman. We are 100% Polish, and my mother came from Poland with my grandparents when she was 12. I know many of you immigrated when you were very young, and some of you came later. And they came from Poland through France, where my grandfather served in a Polish division of the French army, captured as a prisoner during the war, spent 5 years in a labor camp. And when he was free, they had a choice. They stay in France, so they go back to Poland, so they come to US, Canada, Australia. Well, they couldn't go to Poland because it became communist. And any land they had, their farmland, was absorbed by the communists and the communist government. My grandmother had family in Canada, good sisters. So under family reunification, they came here instead. And I'm very grateful that they did. And they worked very hard. My grandmother sewed piecemeal. My grandmother, like yourselves, any job you could find, as a new immigrant who didn't speak the language, he worked on loading docks. And he worked in the mines in the north. But one day he got a job at the Globe and Mail. He was never so happy. He was the janitor at the Globe and Mail for 40 years.
Oh.
I love that man with all my heart. He raised me. He gave me such an incredible life. My mom married when she was 24, had me at 24, married when she was 21. I was old then. It didn't work out. He had mental health and substance abuse issues. He was an alcoholic. And she left him. And this was very unheard of in 1963, that a young woman walked out with a child. But the situation as it was, she couldn't stay. And he later had a very difficult life, a life of substance abuse, and ended up dying in the Seton House, which is a home for homeless men. So I just wanted to put that in context for you, because some of you will know people who have been dealing with mental health and addictions, and I know firsthand the effect. It was so dire in my household that my mother, at 24 years old, walked out, and her husband, 27 years old, walked out. Unheard of then, unheard of. And didn't have a friend in the world, all their friends left her. And we moved in with my grandparents, and I will tell you that they saved enough money from both their jobs to put a down payment on a very large house, because that was achievable back then. They brought in boarders, roomers, to pay the mortgage, and those people paid rent, and my grandmother would cook. That's how it was. You have to do what you have to do. And when my mom left, we moved in, and we shared a room. In fact, we shared our bed, her bed. My grandparents said, well, if you're going to live here, you got to pay rent too. She went to work. But life was simpler. It was around the church, and it was around family. We rode the streetcar in Toronto. We didn't have a car. We didn't go out for fancy dinners. My grandmother cooked. It was expected. I learned from them how to make cabbage rolls and pierogies, typical Polish food. My grandfather must have wanted a grandson because we watched the original 6 hockey teams on black and white TV with the rotary dial. And he taught me all about hockey, which I still love today, and thank him for that. There was no alcohol in the house. And there were no vacations, because we couldn't, of course, afford it. But one day, my mom, about 9-10 years after she left my biological father, announced she was going to remarry. She married the neighbor's best friend, and I always wondered why that guy hung around so much. Lovely man. He adopted me. And we moved to Etobicoke, and another reason the Premier doesn't like me, I think, is because I grew up in Etobicoke. We have the same friends, we know the same people, and we went to different schools, but I knew of him for the reputation he had and the entrepreneurial business he had at the time. It was well known. But I say that too because my dad was in real estate, and I think many of you are in real estate, and in real estate it's feast or famine, right? Some years you make a good amount of money and you live well, and other years it's pretty bare. I used to say it's either steak or tuna casserole. And when we moved in, he decided we needed to go on a holiday because I'd really never had one. And we went to Osaka Beach for a week, to the lake. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. We were by the lake. How beautiful. I didn't know people had cottages and went every weekend. And I tell you this story because I just want to show you the contrast of what they show you and who I really am. And I used what they taught me. Work hard, get a good education, and you will be successful. And I did. I had a corporate career, as you know. I took time off from my corporate career to have kids, but I consulted and I was very involved in the community, sitting on many boards and raising money for the hospital and other charities. That served me well when I ran as a member of parliament. Unfortunately, I took the early retirement package and then became a councillor and then the mayor, as you know. So my life is not what you have been told. As a member of parliament, I was invited to do Power and Politics and do an interview with CTV News. Well, imagine, CTV News was in the Globe and Mail building. So when I walked in, I thought, wow, this is where it was, where he toiled. All that white marble and those brass railings that he polished every day for 40 years. And how incredible that this province and this country, which you can achieve in one generation. In one generation, because they came as a family from Poland. And here, their granddaughter, who they adored, an only child, became a member of parliament, largely because of what they taught me. And yes, I won't apologize. I worked hard and got good jobs and raised my children in a nice home. But what you see in their advertising is not who I am. And it disturbs me that you can put falsehoods like that on television and people think it's the truth. None of that is true. I don't have a $5 million house in the Hamptons, or any house in the Hamptons. I don't ever fly, I've never flown a private jet. All those things they say are completely untrue. And when we went consulted lawyers, they said it doesn't meet the threshold of defamation of character. So it's shocking that they can actually put this in the media. And I told you this story today so you would get to know me better as a person, but also so when you hear people say these things, you can say, that's not true. None of it is, and it's very important that you correct the record. So when I'm with large groups, I won't tell the full story because you're close and you're friends. So I wanted to share it with you. Because many of you I've known for a very long time. There are people in this room